Global climate change is not a future problem. Changes to Earth's climate driven by increased human emissions of heat-trapped greenhouse gases are already having widespread effects on the environment. Glaciers and ice sheets are shrinking, river and lake ice is breaking up earlier, plant and animal geographic ranges are shifting, and plants and trees are blooming sooner. Effects that scientists had long predicted would result from global climate change are now occurring. The severity of effects caused by climate change will depend on the path of future human activities. More greenhouse gas emissions will lead to more climate extremes and widespread damaging effects across our planet. Hey guys, welcome back to our channel, and in this video, we're going to show you how severely climate change is affecting the world around us. The things you are going to see will surely make you question whether us humans are doing enough to keep our Mother Earth sustainable for living in the future. But before we start, please hit the like button and turn on notifications so you do not miss any of our future videos. Now, before wasting any more time, let's begin. High temperatures. The climate crisis has increased the average global temperature and is leading to more frequent high-temperature extremes, such as heat waves. Higher temperatures can cause increased mortality, reduced productivity, and damage to infrastructure. The most vulnerable members of the population, such as the elderly and infants, will be the most severely affected. Higher temperatures are also expected to cause a shift in the geographical distribution of climate zones. These changes are altering the distribution and abundance of many plant and animal species, which are already under pressure from habitat loss and pollution. Temperature rises are also likely to influence phenology, the behavior and life cycle of animal and plant species. This could in turn lead to increased numbers of pests and invasive species, and a higher incidence of certain human diseases. Meanwhile, the yields and viability of agriculture and livestock, or the capacity of ecosystems to provide important services and goods, such as the supply of clean water or cool and clean air, could be diminished. Longer drought seasons. Due to the changing climate, many European regions are already facing more frequent, severe, and longer-lasting droughts. A drought is an unusual and temporary deficit in water availability caused by the combination of lack of precipitation and more evaporation due to high temperatures. It differs from water scarcity, which is the structural year-round lack of fresh water resulting from the overconsumption of water. Droughts often have knock-on effects, for example, on transport infrastructure, agriculture, forestry, water, and biodiversity. They reduce water levels in rivers and groundwater, stunt tree and crop growth, increase pest attacks, and fuel wildfires. In Europe, most of the roughly €9 billion annual losses caused by drought affects agriculture, the energy sector, and the public water supply. Extreme droughts are becoming more common, and the damage they cause is also growing. Less water availability. As the climate heats up, rainfall patterns change, evaporation increases, glaciers melt, and sea levels rise. All these factors affect the availability of fresh water. More frequent and severe droughts and rising water temperatures are expected to cause a decrease in water quality. Such conditions encourage the growth of toxic algae and bacteria, which will worsen the problem of water scarcity that has been largely caused by human activity. The increase of cloudburst events, sudden extreme rainfall, is also likely to influence the quality and quantity of fresh water available, as stormwater can cause uncleaned sewage to enter surface water. Floods. Climate change is expected to lead an increase of precipitation in many areas. Increased rainfall over extended periods may lead to fluvial flooding, that's river flooding, while a short, intense cloudburst can cause pluvial floods, where extreme rainfall causes flooding without any body of water overflowing. River flooding is a common natural disaster, which has, along with storms, resulted in fatalities, affected millions of people, and incurred massive economic losses in the last 3 decades. Climate change is likely to increase the frequency of flooding across the world in the coming years. Heavy rainstorms are projected to become more common and more intense due to higher temperatures, with flash floods expected to become more frequent. Rising sea levels. The sea level rose over the course of the 20th century, and the tendency has accelerated in recent decades. The rise is mostly due to thermal expansion of the oceans because of warming, but melting ice from glaciers and the Antarctic ice sheet is also contributing. Alongside either climate change impacts, sea level rise will increase the number of flooding and erosion around the coasts, with significant consequences for the people. infrastructure, businesses, and nature in these areas. Moreover, sea level rise is projected to reduce the amount of fresh water as seawater pushes further into underground water tables. This is also likely to lead to much more saltwater intrusion into bodies of fresh water, affecting agriculture and the supply of drinking water. Biodiversity. Climate change is happening so fast that many plants and animal species are struggling to cope. There is clear evidence to show that biodiversity is already responding to climate change and will continue to do so. Direct impacts include changes in phenology, the behavior and life cycles of animals and plant species, species abundance and distribution, community composition, habitat structure, and ecosystem processes. Climate change is leading to indirect impacts on biodiversity through changes in the use of land and other resources. These may be more damaging than the direct impacts due to their scale, scope, and speed. The indirect impacts include habitat fragmentation and loss, overexploitation, pollution of air, water, and soil, and the spread of invasive species. They will further reduce the resilience of ecosystems to climate change and their capacity to deliver essential services such as climate regulation, food, clean air and water, and the control of floods or erosion. Soils. Lastly, climate change may aggravate erosion, decline in organic matter, salinization, soil biodiversity loss, landslides, desertification, and flooding. The effect of climate change on soil carbon storage can be related to changing atmospheric CO2 concentrations, increased temperatures, and changing precipitation patterns. Extreme precipitation events, fast melting of snow or ice, high rivers discharges, and increased droughts are all climate-related events which influence soil degradation. Deforestation and other human activities like agriculture, skiing also play a role. Saline soils are expected to increase in coastal areas as a result of saltwater intrusion from the seaside because of rising sea levels and, periodically, low river discharges.